everybody, and welcome back to Careers in a Crunch. I'm your host, Arthi Chandarana, and today
Yeah,
I'm
I think
joined by
you're.
Marc Maibrunn. I'm super excited to have him on my podcast and hear about his journey. Once again, I want to thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited to hear about your journey.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So yeah, I know you worked at like MSG for a while, and you recently like switched to a new role. So I'd love to like talk a little bit about that in like my first question, which is what does a typical day in your role look like? And you can talk about I guess both your previous role and your current one now.
Yeah, I guess the nice thing is that the only thing that is consistent is inconsistency. And what I mean by that is each day to day is very diverse. So, what is my world? My world is real estate and it's facilities management. Real estate is more of, I'd say, the formal interactions. It's the negotiations on a lease for a workspace. It's trying to figure out as a company expands into new markets, what is the right look and feel of an office environment. It also can mean construction, um, dealing with the landlords and general contractors for build out of a new environment once that space has been selected. The facilities management side of things is really what's customer service focused. It's making sure that who our customers are, which are the employees that go to work every day, those are our internal clients, that the operating environment is consistent, right, day to day. There's business continuity that remains uninterrupted, and that if there's any needs that happen where our teams are there to resolve that instantaneously. And when you deal with a population, we have a few different offices. When I was at Madison Square Garden, at least, I'll talk to that for a minute. We are in New York City, obviously because of the arena, but we also had Radio City Music Hall. We had the Beacon Theater. And so we have our largest contingent of employees in New York City based on the venues. But we also have a couple of hundred people in California and Las Vegas. So it's really just putting the internal client first. And that's what's the most diverse about a day.
Yeah, I think you know what you kind of said about how like the only really stable thing is instability, how a lot of things change from day to day and how everything can look different, but right there's sort of like one like kind of common theme and how there's so many different aspects to like your job. Um, and obviously you have a new role now, so yeah, you could also talk about like what your day looks like there.
Yeah. Yeah, so brand new role. Just started the other week, so still learning what the everyday means. But yes, I recently joined Rockstar Games, which is the creative brain behind some of the more popular video games. Probably their most well-known would be Grand Theft Auto. And so they are very much like a studio. They have a creative space. They have a production space. They have sound pods, right? Everything that kind of goes into what a video game um, publication is involved with. So here it's a little bit more of an international flavor. They have studios all around the world. And so, again, just sticking with that real estate and workplace services theme, managing the day-to-day operating environment, but really within a creative brain space.
Yeah, that's so interesting how you can sort of carry the skills you've learned from your previous job into your new one and how you right learn something new like every day. Next, what did you major in and how did that shape your career?
Yeah, my major was very different than what I do today. My major was communications and marketing, but and that's the field that I started out in for the first few years of my career. But only when I decided to go back for my master's in project management did that kind of take me towards my field today, which I didn't even really knew existed. But when you talk about the principles of what project management is, scheduling, timing of events, managing a budget. Those are principles that can take you from industry to industry. And I kind of just fell into the real estate portion of it, but based on the principles of what my master's was in. So, to answer your question, communications and marketing definitely played a role as far as the first probably 4 to 5 years of my career. But then I kind of sat back and thought about what I really want to do, what I was good at. And even though I didn't have real estate in mind, sometimes it's okay to go with the flow and figure out based on what you're learning, where can those principles be applied to?
Yeah, that's super interesting how your sort of major was sort of a lot different than what you really ended up doing for the first little bit. So that's super interesting. What inspired you to pursue, I guess, right, your career at MSG, and then also what inspired you to pursue your current role?
Oh, great question. Growing up in New York City, I was born and raised in Manhattan. So as a child, my parents and really my father would take me to Madison Square Garden for lots of different events. So I was a fan first before ever thinking that I would become an employee. But there was familiarity there, and there was a sense of nostalgia. And so when I found out about the opportunity at MSG, I said, how do I not at least take a chance and pursue it, not knowing if I would get it or not. But I think what your audience would take interest in is that when you work for a powerful brand, a market leader, chances are that there's always going to be a sense of, hey, let me go for the home run, right? Let me go interview with a company that kind of sets the tone for whatever industry they may be in. And so to answer your question about inspiration, I think there was a sense of nostalgia, like I said earlier, but also there was a sense of I want to go and work for the best. And they are the best in what they do. And as far as what made me transition to Rockstar Games, they're the best in what they do. Different field. They're not sports and entertainment, but well, I guess they are a form of entertainment. So I'll take that back. It's staying within the entertainment industry, just a different component of it. And so sometimes it's good to challenge yourself. Um, keep pushing yourself to do different things for different companies. And so that was the inspiration to change.
I think it's so like awesome how you sort of like took kind of your own from like I guess your own childhood experience and kind of put that into your role at MSG. And like you said, it was your Rockstar Games is also entertainment, so it kind of like works sort of hand in hand a little bit. Yeah, I think that's so interesting. What are some of the key responsibilities that you oversaw when you in managing the MSG's workplace environment and the real estate operations?
Yeah, so there was a lot of different things for sure. I told my team all the time, our biggest challenge and our biggest opportunity was the fact that we served the entire client base. And that's really from the chairman of our company, all the way down to the people who make up our team. And so I would say that what was our responsibilities, again, was building out new space when it came time to figure out where we wanted our corporate headquarters to be. What is the design process behind that? What is the programming behind it? Meaning, how do you decide adjacencies? What business units work with what business units? So it's very much a strategy and analyst component to it. So I would say that would be one portion of it, and then the other is trying to understand the creatives, what makes up their day to day, and how can you be ready to serve and respond. What is the mindset that you want to have when you encourage your team to respond to other clients, right? Have a hungry mentality, always try to stay a step ahead. So I would say that it really was it's a long-winded answer, but I would say it's everything from construction fit outs and design of building new space to just making sure that when you do respond to any type of inquiry, that that you have the information, you have the resources, and you just go forward.
Yeah, I think there's like so many, I think, components to like all like every job. And like you were saying, right, in like the real estate operations, there's just like so many different things that you right need in order to carry out right the entire right operation. And I think that's like really great. Um, what's something people might be surprised to learn about managing workplace operations at a venue as big and busy as MSG?
Surprise? That's a good question. I would say that there is never a dull moment. There is a demand for work every moment of every day. But I think that you have to learn patience, you have to learn diplomacy, and you have to learn customer service. And that's not necessarily something you would learn in school. That's something that you pick up in your day-to-day interactions. So I would say those three principles is something that you learn on the job, and that kind of carries you from day to day.
Yeah, I think those are some like skills that I think not only I guess people working in your field, but I think a lot of people kind of can like pick up on those because it's really like useful to just be able to like right have like good communication skills and customer service skills just right in your day-to-day life. Um, what are some challenges you face in your job and how do you handle them?
Oh boy. Um, well, again, because I think there's so much diversity in what I do or what our function does. Some of the challenges could be everything from people's mindset that day, meaning that, if they're not in the best of moods or have the most patience, that doesn't mean that we have to be the same. So it's understanding how to be consistent, no matter what the environment or the challenge may bring. I would say it's understanding how to pivot on a dime for personalities who could be very demanding. And I think it would be also understanding to know every aspect of your job, because you can be quizzed on it and be brought into a meeting with major stakeholders at any point. So, because we're so diverse in what we do day to day, which means that our audience is diverse, you really have to be paired for a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think like I like what you said about there's so much like diversity and being able to like I guess interact with like anybody because everybody's so different and right having those skills to be able to like I guess talk and communicate and then also right knowing what you do to like the very like best of your abilities and like right knowing exactly like right how to do everything. Um sort of a more like fun question is what is like your greatest achievement in your career?
Greatest achievement. These are really good questions. I think it's not one individual action. I would say I think it's a two-part answer. I think the first part is truly being able to work for some brand leaders as I've progressed through my career. So it's not even just about Madison Square Garden. Before there, I was at Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts, which is a major cultural institution in New York City. Prior to that, I was at Christie's, the auction house in Rockefeller Center, which, if you're not familiar with the auction industry, it's a fascinating environment where literally anything and everything from post-war and contemporary art to to American furniture to jewelry to wine, watches, any type of luxury good, there's always a demand for uh, for rarities. And then before that, Starwood Hotels and Resorts, which is hospitality. So the achievement there is working for industry leaders. And then I would say more recently and more specific was the build out of our corporate headquarters for Madison Square Garden in New York, which was a 5-year project that started really back in 2019 and concluded in 2024. And it was awesome just to be part of that life cycle from really the embryonic stages all the way through, seeing the employees walk in that first day and kind of look around them and say, wait, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I wasn't really familiar with some of the auction, but I think it's so like cool how there's so many different like you had so many like previous like great places that you worked in that and they all kind of targeted like different things like obviously the hospitality and like the fast-paced environment with auctions and right MSG just the big and the busy and fast-paced environment. So I think that's super incredible and a great achievement. Um, Going into advice, if you could go back and give your high school self one or more pieces of advice, what would it be?
I would say a couple of things, and I don't want to get too much on a long-winded answer, but I think that kind of the two or three things that stick out in my mind the most is it's wonderful to live in the moment, and that's important in life to kind of appreciate where you are and what you're doing at that moment in time. But it's also okay to kind of look at life with a little bit of a longer term lens. So think about, what the next 5 or 10 years bring, because that may help shape what you're doing in the moment that you're doing it in. So that would be one aspect of it. The other aspect I would say is to stay hungry. And what I mean by that, and I think I referenced it earlier in one of my answers, is that to have a proactive mindset and to be able to try and be 1 or 2 steps ahead of the environment that you're in is critical. And I think that if you, again, as I say, stay hungry, meaning that always trying to achieve a little bit more, that will do well for you in life. And I think the third piece of advice is to stay true to who you are. You're going to meet a lot of different people in all aspects of your life. And I think if you can stay to the principles of who you are as a person, but also be a little bit of a chameleon and adapt to the environment, I think that's a great combination to have.
Yeah, I think all the pieces of advice you said are really amazing, and I agree with everything about, staying hungry and always sort of like you said, being 2 steps ahead of wherever you are because it's always important to have, I think, the extra like lead on what you're doing. And then what you said about staying true to yourself, well, obviously, I think that's really important for a lot of high schoolers to hear because I just think it's like right? Sometimes you can get caught up in many different things and not really you want to like remember that who you are. And my last question is what advice would you give to high school students who are still unsure about what they want to do?
I would say that the piece of advice is, and this is a phrase that I heard many years ago that's really stuck with me, and that is your network is your net worth. And what I mean by that is that your social network, not just in terms of your friends, but um, the people that you come across every day, try and learn something from every person because that may help shape your views and may introduce you to new aspects of thinking that you wouldn't have ever thought to think of in the first place. And so your network, meaning the people that you come across, try to gain a nugget from every person that you talk to, and that will kind of bring you the riches of not only just not monetarily speaking, but just thoughts of guiding you in a more path towards, hey, what do I want to do for the long term?
Yeah, I think that's a great phrase. I'm gonna keep that with me from now on. But I think, like you said, it's important sort of the people that you surround yourself with, and like not only right your really, like you said, the right your inner circle, but there's like so many people, and everybody has something right different that they can contribute to, I guess everything, and it's important to keep that in mind. Yeah, thank you so much. This was an incredible interview, and I'm so happy to have had you on my podcast.
Oh, this was an awesome podcast. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciated it, and best of luck to you and your listeners.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Stay well.
Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this episode of Careers in a Crunch. If you found today's conversation helpful and informative, be sure to share it with a friend or family member. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an interview. Bye.